So, hi everyone. My name is Matt Peppes, and I'm running for City Council in Ward 1 for Leawood. What's really kind of gotten me involved in kind of why I'm doing this. So, I did run for City Council 2 years ago. I did end up losing, but I learned a lot of different things. And so, in the meantime, I knew this was something that I wanted to do. What I did was I became involved because I knew this was where the direction that I wanted to head. I knew this was going to be the next step. So, I got involved with Historic Commission. With the City of Leawood, I am on BZA. I got more involved with my local Homes Association. I am now the Vice President of the Leawood Home Association, as well as the Architectural Review Committee Chairperson for the Leawood Home Association. But really what's getting me to continue pursuing this, to kind of move forward with becoming a city council member is I like helping people. That's really what I've enjoyed, and that's why I've become more involved with my home association. I love it when people can come, ask a question, kind of work through some sort of a solution. I like being able to represent the people, and that's kind of why I'm doing this. So, for me, this was something that's always been a goal. My dad did this back in the day. So this was just something that, over time, I've always wanted to do this. He instilled in us at a very young age that public service is important, and wherever you live, be a part of your community. And this is kind of my chance to be able to do that and to serve my neighbors and be a part of everything that has everything to do with Leawood. So main three priorities for me, maintaining quality of life, being able to continue along the development. There's very little left for Leawood to develop, but to make sure that it's done in the right way. And then, kind of lastly, just be able to continually invest in the community. One of the things that I think Leawood does really, really well is supporting a safe neighborhood, creating a lot of, with the home association, creating a lot of these different atmospheres. And that's a unique character that Leawood brings. So, my main goal is to continue down that path and to ensure that continues for many, many years ahead. I think the City of Leawood does a great job. You can always tell when you drive across state line when you come back to Leawood. The paved roads are always nice. The streets are always pretty clean, and snow removal is always really taken care of in the winter. I think they do a really, really good job. There's great parks. There's great amenities. Leawood invests a lot of their time, their money to kind of give back to that community. And I think that they are very responsible with a lot of those services and amenities. I think Leawood does a really good job with their city budget. One of the things I think that's coming up, and it might even be a question, I don't know, that's going to be asked later, but one of the things that's going to be coming up is infrastructure. I know there's a lot of stormwater that might need to be addressed in the future, so maybe just being a little bit more transparent about what that might look like down the road. But overall, I think Leawood has done a very good job of managing their budget, and it shows. It shows. Look at the park, look at the streets, look at the new circle that they're putting in. They're very fiscally responsible with how they manage their money. So being involved with the Leawood Economic Development Council, I think Leawood does a really good job with this, but one of the things that I think they do a really good job of is creating a friendly business environment. They support a lot of the existing businesses, and they also ensure that they're attracting some of that investment that kind of helps align with what makes Leawood unique. And I also think that aside kind of like a branch from the city itself, the Leawood Chamber does a really good job of being able to do all of those things as well. They're kind of the tip of the spear that kind of helps pursue a lot of those efforts, and they're doing a great job, and it shows, and that's kind of helps reflect back on Leawood. So this is always a pretty hot topic. One of last campaign, I remember we were discussing this, and the big issue is that we're getting a lot of the older population. They're wanting to move out of their current homes, and they're wanting to downsize a little bit, moving into apartments or other what we'll call affordable homes, but that term always kind of gets a little bit tricky. But essentially what we're trying to do, and what I kind of want to see done, is I want there to be more development opportunities to where a great example is my in-laws. My in-laws currently live out south. They live in a 5-bedroom house. It's just the two of them. They've been empty nesters for many, many years. They really have no desire to stay in that big of a house anymore. So one of the things that they have been wanting to do is downsize, but at the same point in time, you look at Meadowbrook, you look at even some of the other properties that are around that are close to Leawood, they're still close to $1 million. So it makes no sense in their mind to sell their house for however much they would sell their house for and still pay, if not the same, more for even smaller space. So I think that's something that really needs to be looked at down the road, especially along 135th, being that that's kind of the majority of the area that is left for Leawood to be able to build on, is to just kind of look at some of those, with the mixed use, but also look at some of those opportunities to allow people to still stay in Leawood, but not necessarily have to shell out $1 million if they're just trying to downsize. So it'd be great if we can try to create some of those opportunities for them. So I think Leawood should collaborate with some of our regional partners. A great example is the upcoming World Cup. I've been a part of the World Cup committee that's been involved in some of those conversations, and already Leawood's been doing a great job of with transportation and trying to work with a lot of the different cities, from the buses and trying to organize schedules and who's doing what as far as live events and stuff like that. But I think Leawood does a really good job. But at the same point in time, I think they also need to focus on what's best for them. So have active engagement with the region, but then also still kind of have Leawood's best interests at the forefront. I do believe that Leawood is heading in the right direction. You look around, talking with neighbors, people want to move here. People want to live here, and I think that reflects back to the way that city staff is doing all of their day-to-day tasks to be able to keep the governing body on hand. And but I think they do a really, really good job. I think we also need to really be careful and make sure that we're set up for growth. So, as more families are moving in, to be able to make this area a little bit more walkable, a little bit more bike friendly, and a lot of those other things that kind of help promote, that, hey, Leawood is a very family friendly area. And I think they do a really good job of that now. But for the most part, I think Leawood's heading in a great direction. Again, from the top down, they're fiscally responsible, they're managing their money well, they're providing great amenities to the city. And more things are good to come. Some of the meetings that we've been involved with, there's still a lot of good things that they're talking about that are exciting, and they're getting residents excited about. So there's a lot of great things to come. So great question, and it kind of goes back to what I was saying about stormwater. It sounds like that's definitely an aging part of the infrastructure that's going to need to be replaced in the next probably 5, 10, 15 years, somewhere around there. And that's going to be a big undertaking. You can see a little bit already happening on State Line. And then to speak kind of specifically about Ward 1, there's been a lot of neighborhood, I don't want to say complaints, but there's been a lot of neighborhood feedback about 95th Street, 83rd Street, 103rd. 95th and 83rd, they're concrete roads. They've been, I don't know when the last time they were actually done, but there's a lot of cracks. So from a Ward 1 perspective, there's a lot of road maintenance that's going to need to be done over the next couple of years. And I'm not sure if they're still looking at concrete, if they're looking at asphalt, but there's definitely some infrastructure that's going to need to be looked at down the road. So for me, kind of like my intro, this is important to me. I've lived in Leawood my whole life. I care deeply about its future, and it's where I live. Before I moved back to Leawood, so I've been a resident throughout my entire life for 31 years. I had a short stint in Prairie Village, but I always knew that I wanted to come back. And I always knew that I wanted to come back and run for office. But it's my upbringing and being a part of the community growing up, seeing how it's evolved, seeing how Town Center being built and Park Place, and back when Saturn Sirloin was still on a 2-lane Mission Road. It's to be able to see that evolution. I want to be a part of the next generation of what Leawood ends up being. So it kind of goes back to what I just said. Me being able to live in Leawood, having the opportunity to be here for 31 years, definitely sets me apart, especially for my opponent. It's something that I've been able to live through and see some of the rougher times of Leawood, some of the downsides, but also how they've kind of pulled through it. So I've been able to see the evolution of Leawood, what residents actually care about. And I think that's important to always kind of have a pulse, have your ear to the ground to get that feedback from everybody. And that's why I stayed involved. So, for me, I think for my involvement, staying involved, for the past 2 years, I've dug myself in and become involved with as many things as I possibly could, mainly so this next time around for this campaign and beyond, when people do come to me and ask me certain things, opinions, questions, that I'm a little bit more educated on and knowledgeable about to be able to talk to them about those specific topics. Well, thank you everybody for your time today. Again, for me, this is just something that's always been the goal. That's why I moved back to Leawood. This is something that's close to my heart. It's something that I want to do, and I'm not in this for the short term. I hope this is something that if elected, that I can be able to serve and support the people of Leawood for many years to come.